Cytix are a cybersecurity startup building out of Manchester with ambitious growth plans for the 2 years ahead. They've developed an AI powered platform which will improve companies' access to top quality cybersecurity testing. I'm currently sat with their co founder, Thomas Ballin. Thanks for joining us, Thomas. Would you like to start by introducing Cytix and telling us more about what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I guess probably the best place to start is my background's in penetration testing. So I used to come in, spend 5, 10, 15 days tearing apart somebody's application or infrastructure, tell them where their vulnerabilities were. Usually felt like calling their baby ugly, and then shake their hand, say goodbye for a year, and come back another year and find some more stuff, which was fine, but the fact that we were finding things in this point in time annual assessment seemed like it was flawed in a lot of ways. The idea that somebody could have been vulnerable for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, and they couldn't say how long they'd been exposed for, and they couldn't say where those vulnerabilities actually came from, was a problem. And so myself and my co-founding team sort of put our head together and said, what can we do about that? And that's sort of where Cytix was born from. And what we do is effectively say organizations have lots and lots of things that they do that could introduce vulnerabilities. So events that are occurring, changes within their applications and configs. And they also have lots of things external to them that are outside of their control. So new vulnerabilities being disclosed in the wild. We take information about all of those events and we determine what, where, and how to perform the security testing that's needed to understand if there are vulnerabilities actually being introduced by each and every one of them.
Is there a particular moment that you decided that starting a business to kind of address those needs was the right thing to do? How did that come about?
I think I've always kind of fancied myself a bit of an entrepreneur, so I always had a bit of an intention um, to start offering this. But in the sort of later few years of penetration testing, I started to recognize less and less appetite with customers to really engage in the pen testing process. And that wasn't their fault. I think they just started to recognize that they weren't getting the value out of it that they really wanted to, and that they were getting value out of some of the more modernized approach. They were bringing a lot of the capabilities in-house. So I think that was really the starting point for recognizing that maybe we needed to disrupt this space. And the only way to really do that is to be more agile than a traditional consultancy potentially can be, and so probably take a bit of a step off the cliff and have a go at it.
I know that it's relatively early days so far, but thinking about the journey, what are the main challenges that you've experienced so far?
I think probably the main challenge that we've experienced is there are lots and lots of different problems that customers have. And being able to distill those down from the different pieces of information that are shared with you, and being able to understand and recognize what the consistent themes across all of those problems is, that is an incredibly hard task. And you can only do that task by collecting a vast amount of data. Now, thankfully, customers are pretty receptive about sharing a lot of that information. You know, they kind of like that David and Goliath, root for the smaller guy and help support them through the process. But you still need to learn, if you are going to try and invent something new, you still need to learn how to actually do that sort of a messaging exercise and that problem understanding exercise, which is not something that I ever really understood or had to do before.
How about in terms of milestones that you've been able to reach so far? What are you most proud of?
The biggest milestone for us as a business was probably signing that first customer, being able to say, like, we've done the odd bit of sort of some creative deals, shall we say, where we'd been offering something a little bit more traditional, but trying to coax people into to buying into our vision of what security testing could be. But that day that first customer came and said, a this is a problem that I understand, and this is a solution that I believe in, was an incredible experience. And since then, being able to have people actually coming to us and not having to go out and spend hours driveling on about what we believe the problem to be, but have people come and say, you know, I've been thinking about this problem in the background, I get it, I connect with you, and I am really keen on exploring a solution. And I'm not going to pretend that we've got a perfect solution at the moment. You know, we're couple of years into the journey now, and we're still very much in active building mode. But having people who are on board and helping us along the way with that journey, but do genuinely believe that we've got a shared vision, has been just a massive, massive milestone and a massive thing to just move the needle forwards in where we need to be.
So have you found that there is a word of mouth factor with existing clients that are kind of passing that message on, and that's bringing in business directly to you guys?
There is a word of mouth factor, and referrals are still are a big part of the journey. But it's also just so we've taken an approach and a view that because what we're trying to do is disruptive, we don't necessarily need to. We don't necessarily need to go out there with marketing saying this is what we do. We need to go out there with marketing saying these are the problems that we believe we have recognized, and if this message resonates with you, then have a conversation with me. So maybe not so much word of mouth, maybe more just people seeing what we're putting out there and saying, yeah, I get that that's a headache, and it's a headache I've been trying to fix myself for a while.
Brilliant. Definitely helpful, I imagine, to have that kind of inbound traffic as well, rather than being totally kind of dependent on your outreach. And I think that's a sign of a good solution as well. Can you give some context on where the business is at this moment in time and what the next steps look like for your company's growth, where you want to be, say, 2, 3, 5 years time from now as well?
Yeah, sure. So myself and my co-founders, we left gainful employment in October of 2022, and that's when we really started building. We in February we raised a sort of small pre-seed investment round, which has taken us a massive way. It got us to June, where we sort of really started to sign some early adopter clients. We launched an MVP version of the product, and I say MVP, it was MVP. Like, we look back and we really chuckle now, as I'm sure we will do in a year's time when we look back at where we are today. So we're still a very small team. There's 6 of us in total, but we are sort of we're in a position now where we can bring customers on with a level of confidence in our understanding of what we do and our understanding of how it might work for their organisation. Where we are going with that, we're about, hopefully, touch wood, we're about to close a funding round, which will help us to evolve from this small, punchy, agile team with a few early adopter clients to being a much, much more mature, enterprise, scalable version of the product. Something that, our mission for the next year is to be able to drop into an organization and within sort of 48 to 72 hours, show them true value in what we're able to provide in a way that will knock their socks off. And obviously finding a brilliant team of people is going to be fundamental to being able to do that. Finding even more effective ways of communicating the messaging, and just continuing to listen and build and create a product that people want to buy.
What's the profile of customer that you're looking at?
Mid-market to enterprise is the sort of is the message that we say. The reality is any organization with a high cadence of change is the kind of organization that's going to experience benefit from our product. But usually what that means is sort of 500 to 5,000 staff businesses at the moment, people who are big enough that this is a problem that they've been thinking about. They've maybe got an internal security team who are struggling with maintaining an effective testing program, but not so big that the procurement processes alone are going to be a challenge for us as a business. I mean, we've done a lot in that space, and we've completed proof of concepts with some very large enterprise customers, but certainly that sort of later, larger mid-market profile is who we find the greatest affinity with.
Cool. And everybody that works in some way with the tech industry knows that it is a bit of a difficult market at the moment, particularly around things like funding and startups and scale ups having a bit of a tough time. Is there any advice that you'd be able to share from your kind of hard-won experience, potentially for other founders or even kind of founders to be who are considering creating something themselves?
I think the market's warming up a bit. Maybe there's some survivorship bias going on in that, but I do think that certainly it's been a tough year or so. Previously, the economic state obviously is quite a significant factor in that. But I do think that the market is getting more receptive to making some of these more innovation focused investments. The reality, though, is still people are proceeding with caution, and because people are proceeding with caution, you can have a back of a napkin idea, but you're gonna need to be able to back that up with some strong evidence to demonstrate why it is what you're saying is a legitimate concept. We're not, unfortunately, we're not blessed with the same kinds of resources that the US and that Israel are, in terms of having these launch pad VCs who can really just buy into an idea and provide you with a stream of customers and a stream of support and advice in order to be able to execute on your plan. You are going to probably need to do a large amount of that yourself. So coming in prepared, having done your homework, and having real solid data to back up what you believe is pretty paramount, I think.
Cool. Well, I know that you've got that funding round pending as well, so wishing you all the best with that and continued success for the business. But I really appreciate you coming in and speaking with us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.